Good morning. Nice to be here.
Well, good to have you on the show. Are you safe down in Wellington with the strong wind and rain?
Yeah, it is windy down Wellington to be expected. At the
Yeah.
moment, it's not too bad, but I understand the wind is going to be, up to 140-kilometer gusts between now and 10 o'clock tonight. So
Wow.
still ask all our family in Wellington and Christchurch, but in some of those areas in the South Island to stay safe because it's meant to pick up.
Yes. Okay. Well, Pesetatamalelagi, let's start with the early announcement this week about Future Fund. Now, what is the core purpose of the New Zealand Future Fund, and how does it differ from existing investment vehicles like the New Zealand Super Fund?
Yeah, so the Future Fund, the core purpose of it is to back New Zealand potential and investment in New Zealand. So the Super Fund, many of your listeners will know the Super Fund helps to pay for superannuation. And it hasn't yet started to pay for it because when it was set up by Sir Michael Cullen and Helen Clark, a Labour government, back in the 2000s, it's meant to grow and grow and grow, and then at one point then give money out for super, help pay for superannuation. The Super Fund, however, around 80%, 8 to 88% of the funds go overseas, whereas the Future Fund, the money has to go into New Zealand businesses, into infrastructure, into creating jobs only for New Zealand. So it is different from the Super Fund.
Okay, Pesetatamalelagi, please, can you explain how Future Fund will be seeded? What assets or capital will be used to launch it?
Yeah, good question. So the government at the moment, we own around $45 billion of assets, so the government. And around 15 billion of that is state-owned enterprises, so things that are commercially looked after but is owned by the Crown or the government.
Right.
When we go into government next year, we will confirm the assets that will go into the fund. And then every year, those assets generally provide a dividend. So they distribute the profit. Instead of the money coming back to the government to choose where it can go, the fund will manage those investment decisions. So in the same way that the Super Fund currently does. So it'll be seeded with some assets, Crown-owned assets, and we will also put in a $200 million capital injection.
Okay. Well, Pesetatamalelagi, why did Labour choose to invest only in New Zealand businesses and infrastructure? What kinds of projects or sectors are being prioritised?
Yeah, we believe that New Zealand has amazing skills, talents, businesses here. But one of the key things for our low productivity and wages is because the access to capital. So it's hard for our innovators, our tech companies to be able to access the funding they need to grow. And most importantly, to create jobs here in New Zealand.
Right.
So that's why we believe the fund should be set up. Other countries and many countries across the world have these funds to help build the national wealth of that country.
Okay, Pesetatamalelagi, you just said about jobs. Now, how will the future funds create secure, well-paid jobs as Labour has promised?
So the Future Fund will manage their investment decisions. So if they're going through the guardians of the Future Fund, the future guardians of the Future Fund, they will decide the investment criteria. And obviously what Labour will do when we go into government, we'll put it in the legislation that the fund, that the wealth created from the fund needs to be recycled into the economy. So with the key purposes of the transition to clean energy, resilient infrastructure, creating jobs and supporting innovative and technology creation in New Zealand. So it's about using the money that the government currently has in these assets, but rather than just using it on anything like tobacco companies or tax cuts for landlords, what we're saying is we need to create more jobs so that our kids want to stay here. So they don't have to go to Australia to find better pay or better work, because what we're doing is we're growing the wealth in our country.
Right. Okay, I can see, Pesetatamalelagi, critics say the policy lacks detail and maybe more about election optics than substance. How do you respond to this?
for us, it's about making sure that we're saying clearly this is the direction that Labor wants to go. At the moment, the current government needs foreign investors and foreign speculators and is selling off assets. We say, no, we want a different track. We want this future for New Zealand, in New Zealand, by New Zealand. So it's a very different direction compared to the current government. So the confirmation of the assets, that needs to be done in government because there are market disclosures, commercial sensitivities that will happen because of those assets. But otherwise, this is us making a very clear path that we believe we can build a future here in New Zealand for our children.
Okay, last question on future funds. Oleh sembeli le mo tatu tengah Samoa mo Pasifika ile fa mo mo le ai Labour future funds fa mo le.
Oh, it's fantastic because it's jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and it's helping support businesses.
Right.
So this is a medium to longer term because like the super fund, you know, Labor's very good at this stuff. We've got the super fund set up by Labor.
Yeah.
KiwiSaver set up by Labor. So it's all about us making sure that in the medium to long term, we are backing Kiwi businesses because I know a lot of our Pacific people are starting to go into business and about securing jobs and creating that wealth so it stays in New Zealand rather than us constantly having to look overseas or us putting our wealth into overseas companies.
Malu fa te tele lo Hon Pesetatamalelagi Barbara Edmonds mo fa malam mai no na banga future funds. Let's see I just found yesterday that Labor has called an investigation into Public Service Commission, social media, and about the upcoming strike, which is today. What specifically concerns you about these ads?
So today, many of our community will know their schools have either been cancelled for their college kids. You know, when they go to the hospital, there's nurses and doctors still on strike. There are plans for that. But our doctors, nurses, our people in the healthcare sector, our teachers, they're saying that Christopher Luxon he's not helping them with the conditions that they work in. They don't want to negotiate around safe staffing and decent and a fair pay. So at the moment they're currently striking. However, the concern that Labor has is that the State Services Commission or the Public Services Commission, who are not meant to be political, they're meant to be neutral public servants. They've been running these Facebook ads and they're sponsored. So, you know, they've actually paid for these ads. So on one hand, the government is saying, well, we don't have money to pay you more, but at the same time running ads and also giving tobacco companies gas subsidies, you know, all the different choices they're making. But to the ads themselves specifically, we believe it's crossed a line for the Public Services Commission. They're meant to stay neutral, but the language and the way that those ads have been written and also been sponsored or put money into, spread it out, we believe that's crossed the line across public neutrality.
Okay, I can see here the Commission claims the ads complied with government advertising guidelines. What's your response to that?
And our view is that it hasn't. It's gone too far.
Okay.
Yeah, and to say that it's the strikes are causing disruption in the way, you know, you can say that there is a strike on. We have a plan to make sure that you can still keep coming to the hospital, but we believe this has gone too far.
Okay. Well, the strike today, if Labor were in government, how would you ensure the Public Service Commission maintains independence and neutrality?
Well, that's the thing, is that usually ads have to go through the Minister's office, you know, just FYI. We're asking questions in Parliament about how much did the Minister know about these ads? Did their office have any involvement in these ads? Did they approve them, change them? You know, all those questions that you expect the opposition to be asking. So it's the same way that, you know, when we're in government as well, it's just making sure that that boundary is very clear. You know, it shouldn't be political. It should be very neutral. But ultimately, these people are going on strike because they want to protect the public services that our Pacific communities, that our communities across New Zealand rely on. And they don't do it lightly. The fact is that so many are doing it together, again, is because they're trying to send a strong message to the government. Help us have safer staffing, pay us fairly, and give us decent working conditions because we, the public, rely on them.
Okay. Well, Pesetatamalelagi, my last question. What message that this sent to the 100,000 health and education workers preparing for the strike today?
Yeah. The Labour Party definitely backs you definitely backs our doctors, nurses, teachers, those who are going on strike. You know, they went under strike under us as well because we had to make sure we negotiated. But then we got round the table and we negotiated. So this does happen. However, this is the biggest scale of a strike that New Zealand has seen in 40 years. We have been, Christopher Luxon promised when he was elected to make things better, but we can see things have gotten worse, and particularly for those public servants in our hospitals and our doctors' clinics and, and around different areas. They said that they weren't going to make frontline service cuts, but that's not what the staff are saying. They're saying we don't feel safe, we're not being paid enough, and given the conditions that they're working in, something has to change. So we back them in this decision to strike. We know they haven't made that decision lightly, and we're calling on the government to support our doctors, nurses, and teachers.
Okay. Honourable Pesetatamalelagi, Barbara Edmonds, thank you so much for Taeao. Well, stay safe.
Yeah, and everyone else stay safe too. And thank you so much. Nice to see you again.
Okay,